Today, I'm going to give you 4 must-start players for Week 16. These are guys who are peaking at the right time, and they're going to help you advance to the Fantasy Football Championship round. And then at the end, we'll go a little bit deeper during a rapid-fire session to give you a few sleepers you should feel confident putting in your Week 16 lineups. Let's go. James Cook is about as hot as any running back in fantasy football right now. He's had 4 straight top 12 finishes, and he hasn't scored outside the top 24 since Week 9. And since then, he's accumulated 684 yards from scrimmage, been targeted 21 times, and he's scored 4 touchdowns. And his Week 15 was about as good as it gets. James Cook had a 56% snap share that was his highest since Week 8, and his 23.1% target share was the highest of his season. He finished the game with a season-high 25 carries for 179 yards and a touchdown. He also caught 2 of his 3 targets for 42 yards and another score. That totaled 36.1 fantasy points, which was second only to Christian McCaffrey on the week. Now in Week 16, Cook gets the pleasure of facing a Chargers defense that allowed the 7th most fantasy points per game to the running back position, and they just gave up 63 points to the Raiders. I have Cook ranked as a top 5 running back for Week 16, and he's a must-start in the fantasy football semifinals. And if you believe James Cook continues to run hot against the Chargers in Week 16, then you can play this pick'em on Underdog Fantasy. Lock in your pick now or draft a whole starting lineup for Week 16 and use promo code YARDSPER for a $100 deposit match and a free mystery pick'em. Joe Flacco plus David Njoku has equaled sweet music over the last 2 weeks. In those 2 games, David Njoku has been targeted 22 times. He's had 16 receptions, 195 receiving yards, and 3 touchdowns. Njoku finished both weeks as the 2nd highest scoring tight end in all of fantasy football. Much like what we saw last year with the Jets, the Browns are letting Joe Flacco throw it. He's attempted 44, 45, and 44 passes during his 3 starts. Prior to Flacco, there have been just 2 instances of a Browns quarterback reaching even 40 pass attempts during the season. That confidence in Flacco has unlocked the ceiling and boosted the floor of David Njoku. And he's clearly been Joe Flacco's favorite target. And now he gets the Texans in Week 16. Houston has surrendered the 7th most fantasy points per game to the tight end position this season. And if they end up getting quarterback CJ Stroud back from his concussion, that's only going to improve the chances that this game turns into a shootout. But either way, there aren't many tight ends that I would want over David Njoku in the fantasy football semifinals. Rashee Rice continues to be the lone bright spot in the Chiefs offense. As Patrick Mahomes grows more frustrated with his supporting cast, he has begun to lock in on his rookie wide receiver. And as a result, Rashee Rice has not seen fewer than 9 targets or a target share below 25% in a game since before Thanksgiving. He's had 38 targets, 32 receptions, 334 receiving yards, and 3 touchdowns over the last 4 games. To put that into perspective, Travis Kelce has 29 targets and no touchdowns over that same stretch. Rashee Rice's route participation continues to rise week over week, up to a season-high 92.7% in Week 15. And in Week 16, the Chiefs take on the Raiders. In their Week 12 matchup against the Raiders, Rashee Rice beat up on Las Vegas, going 8 of 10 for 107 yards and a touchdown. He finished as the wide receiver 3 in PPR scoring. And that was despite running fewer than 70% of the routes. So now that Rice is playing a full-time role, he could beat up on a weak Raiders defense even more. I probably don't need to tell you this, but he is a must start. T. Higgins was dead and buried a few weeks ago. Between his lack of production on the field, his various injuries, and the loss of Joe Burrow for the year, 2023 was looking like a lost season for T. Higgins. However, that has all changed now that backup quarterback Jake Browning has proven to be more than capable. In fact, Jake Browning is the first quarterback in NFL history to throw for 1,000 yards while completing 75% of his passes over his first 4 career starts. That's per Field Yates on Twitter. And T. Higgins benefited from Browning's great play in Week 15, catching 4 of his 8 targets for 61 yards and 2 touchdowns. But where Higgins will really benefit moving forward, though, is with the loss of Jamar Chase for the foreseeable future. Chase has a shoulder injury that's going to force him to miss some time, leaving T. Higgins as the top option in the Bengals passing game. Not only is this Higgins' opportunity to prove he's a true alpha wide receiver just in time for free agency, but he can reward all the fantasy managers who have been patient with him through this tumultuous season. If Higgins is on your roster, this might be the first time all season that you can confidently plug him into your lineup. Before we get to my Week 16 sleepers, if you're enjoying this video and you find it all valuable, please hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. I'm pumping out content like this all through the fantasy football playoffs. And let me know your toughest Week 16 lineup decision in the comments, and I'll let you know what I would do. My first sleeper for Week 16 is Ty Chandler. Did I not tell you to start Ty Chandler last week? I featured him in my trending video from Week 15. All he did was go out there and play over 80% of the snaps, have a 12.5% target share, give you almost 25 fantasy points, and finish as a top 10 running back for the week. You're welcome. As long as Alexander Madison remains out, Ty Chandler is a must start. He's an RB1 moving forward. All right, Roschon Johnson has been a headache all season long. Every time I think he's about to happen, he doesn't happen. However, the tides changed once again in Roschon Johnson's favor in Week 15. With both D'Onta Foreman and Khalil Herbert active, Roschon Johnson still played 49% of the snaps. Foreman played 26%, Herbert 23%. And Johnson has now had 5 or more targets in 3 of his last 5 games. This could be the beginning of what we've been waiting for. Now, he's certainly far from a must start. He's only a guy you're going to plug in probably a more desperate situation in a deeper league, but he's a sleeper that you can have a little bit of confidence in putting in your lineup if you need him for Week 16. If Michael Pittman has to sit out Week 16, which is tragic, by the way, because, man, we've been riding him all season long. He's been awesome. But remember Josh Downs from earlier in the season? Josh Downs had a really, really hot stretch in the middle of the year. He would become the wide receiver 1 in Indianapolis. And get out of here with Alec Pierce. If Pittman's out, Josh Downs is a top 36 wide receiver. Jayden Reed has been as hot as any wide receiver in fantasy football over the last month. I don't even think he qualifies as a sleeper anymore, but I just want to talk about him. He has scored fewer than 15 fantasy points once since Week 9. Yeah, so he's probably not a sleeper. Just play Jayden Reed. As long as he's healthy, play Jayden Reed. In that same Packers offense is Tucker Kraft. Now, he's an actual sleeper, but Tucker Kraft has scored as a top 12 tight end in 3 of the last 4 weeks. He's played really well in the absence of Luke Musgrave. And Christian Watson being out helps things too, because that's more targets to go to Tucker Kraft. So if you're in a rough spot tight end wise, if you're streaming the position, I give you full permission to start Tucker Kraft. Who would have thought Baker Mayfield would be somebody you'd be confident starting as a top 12 quarterback in the fantasy football semifinals? With the quarterback position being so decimated by injuries this season, there are a lot of you who are still alive in the fantasy football playoffs who are streaming the quarterback position. And Baker Mayfield is coming off a perfect quarterback rating, a fantastic performance against the Packers. He's had back-to-back top 12 weeks. And now he gets the Jaguars, who have given up the 3rd most fantasy points per game to the quarterback position. Chris Godwin looks as good as he has in over a year. Mike Evans continues to be Mike Evans. Baker Mayfield is having his best season of his career. Ride him while he's hot, start him in the fantasy football semifinals, and we'll see you in the championship round. Hey, if you like that video, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, leave a comment on what you want me to talk about next. You can find all my stuff, my rankings, articles, podcasts, more videos like this on yardsperfantasy.com. Just download the Yards Per Fantasy app, and we thank you for your support.